Hello, my name is Meghan Skarzynski. I am a senior finance major and Hackworth Fellow for the Markkula Center for Applied Ethics. Today, I have the pleasure of welcoming Kirk Hanson, Executive Director of the Markkula Center for Applied Ethics, who will be sharing with us advice to graduating seniors who may encounter ethical dilemmas in their first year on their job in the business world. During his 23 years of teaching at Stanford's Graduate Business School, Kirk pioneered cases in business ethics and responsibility. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Megan.
So my first question is, how would you advise SCU seniors to prepare for ethical dilemmas in the workplace?
Well, the first thing to say is that ethical dilemmas are inevitable.
Okay.
And maybe more in the first year than even in succeeding years.
Oh, really?
It's inevitable that you'll face a set of unavoidable, even predictable, though, ethical dilemmas in a business career. And so as you start out, you need to be aware of what those are, and you need to be aware of what your own values are as you confront those. So, some of them that we often see are where the individual is aware that somebody's doing something wrong, somebody's cheating on their expense reports,
right,
or somebody is browbeating or harassing somebody else in the workplace, or maybe just a lazy coworker who doesn't put in his hours, and the question is, do you have any responsibility to let the boss know?
Right.
So there are a lot of just everyday things that you face. I think the way you prepare for those things is first to know that there are unavoidable dilemmas, not to get uptight that these things arise. But you have to understand what your own values are. And the fact that you believe that being honest in business is important.
Yes.
Which will cause you to say, that's not really a good marketing pitch.
Right.
Or that's, we actually just lied to that customer or something like that. So you need to know your own values of what's honest. You need to know what's fair competition, not to sabotage the other competitor
right,
or something like that. So that's part of it, is to know your own values and then understand that you're going to face a set of unavoidable dilemmas.
Right. What great advice. Just as a student at Santa Clara, I feel that really talks to the Jesuit education we've received here, and being able to meld that and kind of overlap it with the business school. So I think our students will be well prepared for that.
Well, I think that's the essence of a Jesuit education. This is people engaged in the real world. And so this is our values, whatever they come out of a Christian tradition or a Muslim tradition or a Jewish tradition, or just out of our secular selves. And how do we put those to work in real practice, in real life situations? That's what St. Ignatius, the founder of the Jesuits, was known for, saying that it was important to think about taking values and putting them to work in the real world.
Great. I love that. Okay, so that being said, now that we kind of have this framework that it's going to be expected that we'll run into these ethical dilemmas, what would you say is the primary ethical challenge that most students will face?
Well, there are two things that seem to happen in the first year.
Okay.
One of them is that you don't know whether something's wrong or not. And so you have suspicions that somebody may be doing something wrong, but you're not sure.
Right.
And so asking a lot of questions with that lack of knowledge about whether this is a fair way of doing things or an honorable way of doing things, you need to be able and brave enough, courageous enough to ask a lot of dumb questions your first couple of years. Is that how we market? Is that what we usually tell the customer? Is it fair to tell the customer that? Is that completely truthful to the customer? In a kind of a non-judgmental way, just to collect information.
Right.
And so that's one thing, is that you don't know a lot of stuff about the business world, and you need to have the courage to ask questions. And then you don't always know much about the particular responsibilities of the job you're put into. If you're a financial analyst, what really is expected of you as a financial analyst? Or if you're a junior person in the marketing department, what's really expected of you? So you have the process of learning about what role you're playing and what its responsibilities are. If I'm in this analyst job, what do I owe to my boss? What do I owe to the division I'm a part of? What do I owe to the company as a whole? So again, you need to ask a lot of questions about that.
That makes sense.
To get an understanding of your job and the role you play.
Of course.
The best companies will brief you on those things.
Good.
But that's not generally done. I did have one job in my life where the dean of the business school that I was joining
Yes.
brought me in and said, I want to talk to you about what our ethical view of what the role of a faculty member is.
That's fantastic.
Here's what we think we owe to the students. Here's what we think we owe to each other as faculty. Here's what we think we owe to the community. And I've respected him ever since for understanding that I was an ignorant first-year professor and needed to be educated about those things.
That's so wonderful that there's open communication about
Yeah.
ethics. I think it's really important to have just a transparent workplace, because in order for ethics to be followed, you really need to have all the information. And that sounds like a suggestion that.
And I think that's the biggest
asking
barrier.
questions.
Biggest barrier in the first year is
Yeah.
just that you're learning still.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Okay, so the third question is, what's the most common misstep for a first-year employee?
I think the most common misstep is not asking enough questions related to the point we made earlier. That you don't ask a question about whether that's what really is expected of you. You think somebody just told you to fudge a number or to make to tell a customer one thing when they weren't really asking you to do that. And so you end up doing something that's really not fair to the customer or misrepresenting a report or something because you thought you were being pressured to do it when you actually weren't.
Right.
And your boss was not trying to get you to do something improper. He or she was just trying to get you to do something else, and you didn't understand it. But I'm afraid to raise that. I'm afraid that I'll be fired, or I'll be afraid that I won't be seen as a part of the team or whatever. And so, ironically, it's doing something unethical because you thought that's what you were asked to do when you weren't at all.
I see. Almost bystander behavior.
Yeah, well, it is bystander. I don't raise it, but I also misinterpret what's been asked of me, and so we see a lot of cases where people in their first couple of years in a business setting will be confronted with, why the hell did you do this? And it'll be because they thought they were being asked to do it, and they weren't at all.
That's great. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us today and
Thank you,
giving graduating seniors advice on ethical dilemmas they may encounter in their first year on the job in the business world.
Thank you.